The directors of Avengers Doomsday, Joe and Anthony Russo, have confirmed some major details in relation to the Thunderbolts and specifically the post-credit scene. So in this video, we're going to dive deep into what this scene is and really why they directed it. So yeah, if you watched The Thunderbolts, the post-credit scene of the film is 2.5 minutes. It's the longest post-credit scene we've ever gotten in the MCU. And while the scene consists of the properly named New Avengers, who were formerly the Thunderbolts, as they are in Watchtower, aka the new Avengers building or the old Avengers Tower, they are sitting there in their brand new suits and talking about what's going on. In this scene, it's mentioned by Bucky that he did talk to Sam, but the two of them are, they're butting heads and not really on good terms with one another over Avengers versus New Avengers. And then what happens is that there is a alarm that goes off because there's some sort of space crisis. Whatever the space crisis is, we don't know. But stuff's going on in space. Suddenly, they get notified that there's a interdimensional ship coming in, and it's the Fantastic Four. Okay, so that scene is pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot explaining that needs to be done, although you can dig into the little details in there to what does it mean, what are they hinting at, what are they teasing, whatever the case is. But at face value, you know exactly what it is. And, well, this past week, with the release of Thunderbolts, it was revealed that the post-credit scene was shot about 4 weeks ago on the set of The Avengers. And more so, it was revealed that this was not shot by the director of Thunderbolts, but it was shot by the Russo brothers, Joe and Anthony Russo, the directors of Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Now, this is a direct quote that comes at us from Jake Schreier in an interview with Comic Book. I was there when it was filmed. I can say that it comes from the set of a production that might be starting production right now. And this was followed up by Joe and Anthony Russo, who decided to comment on this, saying, "If you haven't seen Thunderbolts, go now. Jake Schreier made a fantastic film. Congratulations to the entire cast and crew. And make sure to stay until the very end of the credits. We left you a little something." End quote. Okay, so the Russo brothers have in fact fully confirmed that they did this, as Jake was hinting at it. So yeah, they did the whole post-credit scene on the set of Avengers Doomsday. Now, this is obviously a major clue for what's going on with the film. First and foremost, the New Avengers are obviously part of the team. You didn't need a recent report from an insider to tell you that there's going to be multiple teams and one of them is the New Avengers, when that's literally in the film. But what's interesting here is that if you guys go back to some of the other stuff that the Russo brothers worked on, like, remember when Bucky, he had his arm caught in a vice, and that was a whole scene from a completely different film at the time? Well, the Russo brothers are back to their old games. This is more than likely a scene that's going to be in Avengers Doomsday, or it's a scene that's sort of a prologue that leads us into it. To me, it would make sense if this scene is stitched into the opening act of the film, because that would then make a whole lot of sense in terms of the flow of everything, setting up Doomsday, what happens next, and the trajectory overall of the film. So now let's look at everything that we know and how this could affect the rest of Avengers Doomsday. Okay, so getting into it, the biggest, most important piece of this post-credit scene isn't that they're the New Avengers, isn't that they got some sort of uniform look or anything like that. It's the fact that when we look at the film, when we look at what they did during the entire film, and then when we look at what's going on with Avengers Doomsday, you start to understand sort of where they're going from where they're at. And the arrival of the Fantastic Four is kind of shocking to the people on screen, but not really. Like, it's a interdimensional portal that opens up, and they're just kind of like, yup, that's expected, right? So whatever's happened in the 14 months since the ending of Thunderbolts to them being the new Avengers in this point in Doomsday, I think is very, very telling. There's been something going on around the planet that shows us that things aren't as good as we think they are. And I think that looking at Doomsday and what they're building up there, specifically with these characters and with the entire cast we officially have announced, you start to see that there's going to be a different focus, I think, with how they approach the story. And I don't think it's going to be how everybody and their mom has just said, yeah, they're just going to repeat Infinity War and Endgame. To a degree, yes, but largely no. And I think that you look at what they're setting up here, and the TVA, and the old X-Men, and what's going on, and then you look at this post-credit scene directed by the Russo brothers at the set of Avengers Doomsday. I think you get the idea that right now they're more steps ahead than they are behind, which I think is important because Marvel for the last two phases has sort of been all over the place, affected by one thing or another, and specifically having to pivot hard from Kang and what they set up. So the Russo brothers, I think, are coming in, cleaning stuff up, trying to do the best that they can with building up hype. And certainly the post-credit scene, I know my theater, both times I saw the film so far, had a tremendous reaction. And it felt like, yeah, the MCU is back right now, and the Russo brothers are handing it or getting it handed off to them with a great film with Thunderbolts. So now they can do what needs to be done. And honestly, I hope that that's the case, So we'll see what happens next. We'll see what the Russo brothers do. We'll see how this scene connects to Doomsday. Like I said, I think it's part of the first act of the film. It wouldn't surprise me if it literally happens at the end of the first act when the Avengers, or the new Avengers, are back in HQ and it plays out. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.